Um, I don't know why every time I get ready to go live, it freezes on me. Can you guys can you guys hear me okay? So I'm currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So if you could let me know in the comments if you can hear me, because I don't know why now I can't hear myself. Let me just see if my audio changed. It didn't change. I don't know why I can't hear myself. Um, can you guys hear me okay? I see you in here. I just want to make sure. I think yeah, you can hear me. Okay, cool. Hi guys. So yep, okay, cool. Thank you. So my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I come on, I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing their story. And the whole goal behind everything that I do is to help you shift the way that you think. And I do have a community that allows you to shift the way you think. That thank you for joining me on Facebook. I do have a community that can help you shift the way you think. But the community is only open 4 times a year. So January is closed. The next time we start again is in April, then in July, and then in September. It's set up like a class where you will get, we're coming out of 2 different books. So there's 2 different classes. The first class is Healing the Inner Child. The second one is All About Love. And so it's set up like a 12-week course where you are given homework assignment, video lessons, and then there's live classes once a week. So pretty cool program that I created because I really wanted to give people like small increments every week of some tools that can help stick because the way that it works with healing, it's not an overnight process. So I didn't want to like stuff information down people's throat. So today I have with me a special guest, Jermaine, who has been on the show numerous times before. It looks like I'm still slow. Let me add him to the stream. I'm still lagging. I can see that right now. Hi, Jermaine. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm Jermaine Morris. I'm a certified disc coach and consultant, uh, podcast host, radio show host, and just all around individual.
Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year. We haven't been on since the New Year. How is your New Year starting out?
So far, it's okay. I decided that I wasn't going to bring 2020 into 2021,
Okay.
so it wasn't a carryover year because so starting from January 1st till now, it's been solid. It's been
Okay.
solid.
Is that because of your mindset shifting? Do you feel like you were able to like kind of shift your mindset?
Yeah, I was. So part of last year was, I think, like with most people, we'll say it was problematic. So not able to travel, there was a certain amount of work I couldn't do, things that were on the schedule that had to get canceled or changed. So there's a bunch of adjustments that had to be made for last year. And so what I didn't want to do was carry any of those frustrations or situations or anything from last year into this year. So I was like,
Okay.
so just start clean. Just just just
Okay.
just let's just not like act like it didn't happen, but let's not carry, almost like when you start a new week or even in some cases a new day. I'm not going to make my issues from yesterday affect my today. Well, I just went into the mindset of I'm not bringing that 2020 nonsense with me into 2021.
Okay, I like that. I think I'm getting some audio echoing from your end. Um, I don't know why. Let me see. Let me just turn this down a little bit. I just want to make sure for the audio that it's not going to be messed up. You know how that is.
Yeah, like I said, I still have a mic set up from something else earlier. I can remove that if that might help.
Now I don't hear it. Did you change anything?
Didn't do
No.
anything.
Oh, well, keep talking. So, the mindset shifting,
uh,
the
um,
mindset shifting is something that is important, and it doesn't have to just happen January 1st, just so we're clear for my listeners. But
yeah.
this just so happens to be a time frame where you decided to create like this mindset shifting.
Yeah, normally at the top of every, I go into every year with a mindset for the 12 months. It's like I have some type of theme that I work with for the year, and usually each year is different. So so the calendar rolls over, I'm usually on a new trajectory anyway. So even though I'm still going in maybe a general direction, my focus may change or something that I want to focus on more. So that happens every January anyway. And so I just kind of put a little extra emphasis on being mindful of not carrying some of the counterproductive thoughts with me from last year into this year.
I like that. And speaking of your themes that you had, can you let my listeners know what last year's theme was for your mindset around the things that you do?
Yeah. So last year's theme was leave no dream behind. So whatever goal or aspiration I set for last year, regardless of what happens, to still try to go all out to make those things become a reality. And last year was a little more difficult, but still doable. So maybe the way I planned on maybe you planned on flying there and flying's out of the way, but you end up taking a train. It may take you longer and there may be some more complications. You may have to drive, it may take you way longer. May have to hitchhike, however you get there, but you don't just abandon the goal. So that was the whole thing for last year. And it really got tested with, COVID stuff, no flying, everybody, I'm in California. So it was like lockdown for real, out here and just trying to make a bunch of adjustments, but still getting things accomplished. So that was kind of last year of making sure.
Nice.
Keeping your eye on the prize.
And for my listeners, if you don't know, we actually talked about this on episode 231. So if you are interested in the topic that he's talking about, leave no dream behind, just because it was last year's topic doesn't mean it still can't apply to your life. Definitely was a really good episode where we really kind of broke that down. So speaking of the last year's dream, what is this year's mindset that you have adopted for 2021?
So, like I said, because there was a lot of every year, everybody's life has challenges. That's just normal. That's just life, if you say it. But there was a lot of extra last year. I mean, we had, protests throughout the streets during a pandemic, during, economic crash, a lot of people laid off or postponed, it was just a lot. And so I'm somewhat of a historian or history buff, I guess. And so I like to watch old stuff, old footage of things. And I came across the old Ali Foreman fight, the Rumble in the Jungle. And if you not a boxing fan or just not a big deal, Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, greatest of all time. So he was the former heavyweight champion. George Foreman was the current champion. George Foreman was like pound for pound one of the heaviest hitters in like the history of boxing. Like he's in those rankings. He used to train with heavy bags, and when he was done, they were permanently indented because of how hard he used to punch. And yeah, like ridiculous strength. And when he fought Ali was a little bit older. And so when they're sitting there fighting, so for 7.5 rounds in this fight, Ali is kind of dancing, but taking a lot of punishment. And Foreman is hitting him with haymakers. Foreman wasn't a jabber. He didn't, just tap you. He was trying to literally take your head clean off your shoulders. And so he was just giving Ali the business, for 7.5 rounds, to the point to where he was punching him. This is the fight that the rope-a-dope, where Ali sat there and just absorbed all these punches and all these hits from this guy who was hitting him with like cinder blocks. And after about 7.5 rounds of boxing, Ali and Foreman got tangled up in the corner, and Ali grabbed Foreman by the back of the head and pulled him close. And he said in his ear, he said, "Is that all you got, George?" And at that moment, the fight was over. Like George Foreman had given him everything he had and had to borrow some from his mama. And Ali looked him dead and said, "Is that all you got?" And that shift, Foreman's spirit was broken. And Ali then turned in the last 30 seconds of that fight to turn around and knock George Foreman out in the 8th round. And that became my mindset for what last year was that last year was George Foreman. So last year was just giving folks the business from January all the way through Christmas. And so my mentality going into 2021 is that all you got? Like, I'm not on the ropes from what last year was. Like, took it on the chin, took everything that happened and came out on the other side. So the move going forward is sometimes you have to get battle tested. And after that happens, it goes awareness of what happened, how you got there, adapting from what happened, the situation, and then evolving into something that's with those experiences that we had of going stronger moving forward. So that all you got is kind of the theme I hold by, but the awareness, adapting, and evolving is kind of the focus as I'm going through this next 12 months.
I like that. And one thing about Jermaine is that you're very kind of solution oriented. Your
Yeah,
kind of mindset is like, what can we do right now? And not
yeah,
only is the theme that is that all you got, but also you're giving us some kind of things to think about around how do we work through that. So let's start with kind of awareness. So you said awareness, adaptation, and evolution.
yeah.
Why is awareness the top of the list of trying to like figure out an issue that we're in the middle of?
Always my focus. I'm a firm believer in that most folks don't hit their goals, hit their marks, fulfill their dreams due to an inability to properly self-assess. So just not knowing where you are. So for a lot of us last year, we found out what our money really was or really wasn't. You know, had to shift income. Some people had to change professions. How much savings we thought we had to work with, like whatever situation we thought we were economically. A lot of us were exposed in the sense that that really wasn't the case. Like,
Money and mine's mental health, I think, was a huge
oh yeah,
one.
I just started with money. Oh, it's a
Oh, okay.
whole lot of like. We learned that our pockets wasn't as strong. We learned that our relationship wasn't as strong because typically pre-quarantine, I mean, as a couple, you spend 10, 11 hours of the day away from each other, at least. So you can get a whole bunch of adventures. You can get all kind of stuff out your system, talking to other people. You've got all these different interactions. You're just not in each other's company. So then you come back and you've almost got a chance to almost miss each other. And you kind of get caught up on the day, kind of close out the day and you're good. Well, during the quarantine, everybody was together all day long. And then people started to realize, maybe I don't like you like I thought I liked you. Like, or maybe this ain't as tight as we thought it was tight. And so the awareness part, some of it with children, with the staying at home, distance learning. A lot of parents had to learn that my child is a little more like people tell me than I thought before. People tell you about your kid. If you've never seen it or you don't believe so, you're like, you can rationalize or justify certain things that you said about your kid. But then when you're there all day watching them and how they interact, and maybe my kid a little bit more like the teacher say than I was giving her credit for. Like a lot awareness. So a lot of things is becoming like really aware of things that maybe we had the luxury of being distracted by before. So now that I'm aware of things to move forward. So let's really take stock of what's happening in many more detail than maybe you're used to.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting. You used the word luxury. We had the luxury of not being aware. It
yeah,
could be a luxury and a curse, I think, because
yeah,
what you're not aware of, you can just keep moving on like everything's fine, but it's not fine, and sometimes it comes crashing at you. But I think the aware and the one thing about this awareness in 2020 was that I felt like people had to go through a detox. When people are dealing with substances and then they're trying to get stopped using, the first like few weeks are really hard because they're not slowly taking it out of their system. It's a drastic
cold turkey.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so some people who had self-awareness went through that process of understanding very slowly, but for a lot of people it was a complete like bam, that's it. You can't have your coping mechanisms anymore. Like it's done.
yeah.
So a lot of awareness took place in 2020, which is so interesting.
Yeah, and with that not having the outlet, I mean, the rates of like domestic violence was so high last year, and like child abuse and like not going on a morbid tip, but like a lot of like there was a lot of issues like with people who didn't have those outlets, those vices, or those ways of kind of coping and dealing with things when they were really just left to their thoughts and really had to sit in a moment or sit in an emotion. There's a lot of people had difficulty with that. And so why tied also with the assessing is learning that about yourself. Because if you've had 10, 11, 12, 15, 20 years, whatever, of being able to distract yourself, and now oh, I actually don't know how to cope with conflict. I actually don't know how to receive criticism or critiques. I don't know how to, like, I normally would go, so I'd go to the bar, I'd go to the club, I'd go I'd go do that. Well, now I have to sit in my emotions and sit in this relationship or sit in this conversation, and I got nowhere to run to. And I don't know how to react appropriately. Like and so for a lot of people, that was an assessing and a learning moment of the same way that, oh, I can overcome, oh, I can do these things, oh, I can tap into strength that I didn't know I had. A lot of it is I've got some flaws that I need to work on. Like I've got some challenges that I need to address because, like I said, I had the luxury of kind of finessing them for who knows how long, but it's in my face now that I have some things I need to deal with.
Yeah. So, and then when it comes to the awareness piece, we understand, we're forced to see it. Now, I love the second one is the adaptation. Why did you choose that as kind of the next step to kind of shifting our mindset around what we have going on?
Yeah. So if you kept your 2019 mindset free flowing, everything's cool, everything's all right, and you go through the struggles that was 2020, if you're thinking you're going to go into 2021 like it's still 2019, you're going to have problems this year also. Mm-hmm. Like there's that climate, it's just I'm not gonna say it'll never exist again, but it doesn't exist now. So there needs to be some adapting that needs to happen to some of these changes that are in place. And so you can't just hold on to what's familiar or what's comfortable, or just be stuck on the mindset of this is the way I used to do it, or I've done it for so long, or for whatever. It's wrapping our brain around the idea of it's never going to be 90 degrees again. So you need to start buying some jackets.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to be this, like just even if it changes down the road, then make another shift. But as for now, it's got to be, I have to look at what's in front of me to a degree for what it is, as opposed to what it was or what I would like it to be.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people are getting stuck in what it was and what they would like it to be. Yeah. And I think staying in those two realms, going back and forth, this sucks, I wish it wasn't this, I wish it was that, will leave you missing out on being able to adapt. Because it's one thing to have self-awareness, but if you don't want to move past that, you want to wish and hope that things were different and not adapt to the current changes. For instance, if you were in a yoga studio and that's not open anymore, but yoga has been one of those mechanisms that you have been able to utilize to help cope with your mindset. You have to mourn the loss of the fact that there's no studio and kind of work on adapting to, a Zoom link. Because a lot of people say, I don't want to do it that way. And I get it. Like, I'm not trying to say just do it, but I do understand, like, that's a loss, right? That's a process that you have to adapt to. But if you're not willing to adapt, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Exactly.
Like, nothing's going to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think the bad part is so tying the adapting into evolving, because the problem is that if you don't change, it doesn't necessarily mean that nothing changes, because the shift is still happening around you. Mm-hmm. So if you refuse to acknowledge that there's a shift, it doesn't mean that the world stays in the same place because you're in the same place.
Yeah.
So there's going to be adaptation happening all around you. And so your situation will probably get worse, because if you're not trying to adapt to what's happening and change, you're just stuck on what used to be, but then change keeps coming. You're going to find yourself getting outpaced. And so that's why you shift into the evolving. Mm-hmm. And so you always preface it, folks got to stop me because I get long-winded with my stories and my analogies. So
it's okay.
So one thing that I was always fascinated with was like those Jurassic Park movies. Remember those Jurassic Park movies?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, some people are like, I remember the first couple ones. I think they made 17 cents. But when I think of them, I think of the, like the original ones. And so you look at those dinosaurs who was running all over the place doing everything, and they start, evolution of what happened. So there's dinosaurs that are gone, but there's a lot of relatives that still live now. So there's a lot of things that have evolved from prehistoric times that have still made their way and still in the game. Like spiders are still around. They was around then. You know, you look at tortoises and alligators and all that sort of stuff. And so when it comes to like dinosaurs, so there's like the Tyrannosaurus Rex has a direct relative that still exists now that most of us have seen. Probably a good percentage have actually held in their hands at some point in life, a live one, and definitely a dead one. So the closest living relative right now to a Tyrannosaurus Rex is a chicken. So if you thought about it, how it looks physically, what a Tyrannosaurus looks like, the little arms, the legs, how they cock back, the head, and then you look at what a chicken looks like without its feathers, same thing. Second after a chicken is an ostrich. And so
I'm gonna Google that after this.
Yeah. Yeah. So the chicken is the closest living relative, and ostrich is the second. So when it pertains to sometimes evolution does not favor you. So when things are shifting and changing, you can go from T-Rex to two-piece if you are not careful and paying attention. You know what I'm saying? Like you go from T-Rex to lemon pepper. If this isn't happening, if you're not aware, assessing where you are, adapting to the change that's happening, and evolving in a space that's going to put you in a better position, you can find yourself shifting down the evolutionary ladder. Because life evolves opportunistically. So it's always looking for angles to better itself. And sometimes we get caught up on how things used to be. So we're not looking to better ourselves for what's happening because we're hung up on how things were. That everything else, it's trying to better itself. Everybody around us is going back to school. Everybody around us is shifting to entrepreneur, opening their own business. Everybody around us is finding new ways to do things. Life is evolving opportunistically, but we're stuck. So we're now shifting lower and lower on that food chain, lower and lower, to the point that you went from T-Rex, you were dominant in your industry, you were dominant in what you wanted to do, you was the man, you was the woman, you was whatever, and then you look up and look around and you two-piece in a biscuit.
Right. That makes sense. And in this, it's a choice to not work on evolving. You know, I heard this story about this mountain in Switzerland that it takes about a day to climb. And there's this halfway mark where people can stop and eat and relax a little bit before they finish it up. And so what the story talked about was how what always happens is half of the people on the group says, you know what, you guys are going up and coming back down. I'm just going to stay right here, because they got real comfortable, right? They're eating and they're enjoying their food, and the other people are going up. And then the sun starts to set and they're looking at the top of the mountain and they're realizing like they missed out on an opportunity. And so as people come back down, right, it's lunchtime again the next day, they come back down and they're high-fiving, talking about like how amazing it was up there. And the people that decided to stay kind of struggle because, you know, they don't have, you know, they missed out on the opportunity. And I think that, you know, when it comes to us stopping the process, we get comfortable. And then we get so comfortable that we don't try anything else because we feel like time has passed us by. But I'm a firm believer that if you're still breathing, there's room for change. So if we use that analogy, you know, you can go back up, right? It's not like the next day happens, you just start again. It may feel a little harder. You may feel like, but I've already started this process before. Like, I don't want to do that again, but you can do it again. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And the whole starting over, doing it again, I think we have such a negative connotation associated with that if you're not, quote unquote, moving forward or moving up, that like it's a loss. To go back, to reset, to start over, to me, that's all part of the process. So the process is not one linear, you know, space of just A to B to C to E, and everything works out. It's some 2 steps forward, sometimes 10 steps back, sometimes all of a sudden turning a left. Sometimes, you know, it's a lot. And so if we're of the mindset where we only see things on that linear path, to think of, okay, I have to fall back to go forward, I can't do that. Like, I can't take a job that pays me less this year than I made last year. It's got to be all lateral moves. I can't downsize my house now to get a better situation, to get a bigger house later, or whatever I want to do. Like I can't, like that idea of if it's not this way, I can't do it. And well, if I didn't go up the mountain all the way to the top the first time, I can't go halfway up, then go all the way back down. Then I gotta come all the way and walk back, like, and we talk ourselves out of growth.
Yep, we do. And I feel like we do that a lot here in America, because there's always this broadcast of what success looks like.
Yeah.
They don't talk about the trials and tribulations of success. I don't think social media helps. If you're spending so much time looking at people's highlighted reels, you start to believe that life just happens that way, and life doesn't happen that way. I'm a firm believer, like what you start your mind with during the day, first thing in the morning, you're setting the tone. And so many people do not have systems for their day. And so you're choosing to allow society to dictate the way your day looks. And if we look at society, like if we were like take a pause and look at society and how chaotic it is, do you really want society to be that driving force of what your mindset looks like? You train your mind, you train your thoughts, your life will start to look different. You'll start to be more action oriented.
Yes.
But if you don't intentionally train your mind, it's a choice to stay stuck. Right?
Exactly. I completely agree. I was talking with a partner of mine the other day, and he was asking me, did I see something on the news? And I said, no, I said, really, I don't see a lot. Like a lot of stuff misses me unless I make a point to look for it. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I haven't had any kind of cable service since 1999. I said, so like I have like Netflix and Amazon because I have Amazon, but like I'll watch some old movies or TVs or something. And so I said, and even like social media wise, what's on your feed is relegated to what you follow or what you look at. I said, so I've created a pretty well insulated space that I don't really just get random stuff in front of me. Like I had to set some protective barriers around that I'm not just getting bombarded with a bunch of messaging and a bunch of imagery that I know can mess with me. Like there's layers before you get to Jermaine. Like there's like, I don't just see, like I don't see just a lot of random stuff. And because I had to be intentional about the energy and the space that I wanted to be in. Like there's stuff I just gotta say, I don't want that on my spirit. It's usually what I say. Like, I don't need to see this. I don't, I can, well, you haven't seen that. Now I'll let it go. Like I'll miss it. But I had to be intentional about protecting my peace in my space, and intentional about, I don't wait to see what the day is going to bring. I decide what kind of day I'm going to have. I love that. And it doesn't mean that things won't get in the way.
Right.
But it also doesn't mean that it has to stop me from getting there.
Yeah.
If I, control what you can control, and I'm cool with what I can't. Like I'm cool with that, feeling like I need to and what I can't. And I just make the adjustments that keep me going where the direction that I'm going. And I know for some people that's like, well, that sounds good, but I'm always like, this, what does that actually look like in life? And I think that it's important that the awareness part is, what do you want? Like, what do you want of your day? Like, what do you want of your week? What do you want of your month? What do you want of your year? Like, what are you waking up working towards something, or are you just waiting for something to happen? If you're waiting for something to happen, then you have to be okay when nothing does. Like, you're just waiting on the mail. Some days nothing's gonna be in the mailbox, and you got to be okay with that because you're just waiting on something to happen. But if you're intentional about what you want to do, then I kind of try to be proactive about, and consistent about going after what you want.
Yes. Yep. Steve Covey in 7 Habits of Successful, Effective Person said, you got to start with your why.
Yeah.
And I, I'm reading all of these literatures that really dictate the way that I've operated for a while. And I start with my why. And when Jermaine says you got to know what you want, most times we don't really know what we want. We think we know what we want. We want maybe what society says we should have, but that's what we could claim that we want. But deep down inside, there's more to us than what we have been engulfed in. Yeah. And I think until we actually stop and become self-aware, we'll start to see that maybe this direction I'm going in is not really what I really want.
Yeah, we'll say stuff like, I want to be married. No, you want a partner with you all the time. You don't want to be alone. Because if you're saying I want to be married, that means I want to be completely vulnerable and transparent to another human being. That means all the things that I could hide in my single life, I'm willing to bring to the table and expose, because it's going to come out. All them insecurities, all them little secondary thoughts. You get married and you with the person every day, all that's coming out. You know, you want to have that level of trust. Like, do you want that? Or do you just say that I want to wake up with somebody? Like, I always want to wake up and go to bed with somebody. That's not the same. You know, I want kids. I want a little version of me running around. Okay. You want crying till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. You want going off a 2-hour sleep. You want raising a human being who may turn out to be nothing like what you want them to be. Like, all that's the stuff that comes out with having kids. So is that what you want? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes we look at highlight reels of other people and we look at all these other things going on. You don't want to be an entrepreneur. You just don't want your boss riding you. Like, the job you got right now, you don't like being micromanaged, but you don't want to be responsible for payroll and all the losses that happen and working 16, 17-hour days, and there are no days off, and the buck stops with you and all that. You don't want that. You just don't want a manager that keeps holding you accountable.
Right.
Like, be clear about what do you actually want.
Yes. And the thing about the clarity is that when you're clear about what you want, then you can actually operate and develop a plan to get to where you want, you want to be. And that self-awareness and adaptation is important. Now we are self-aware. We know about the adaptation. Now, how does the evolution work? Like, tell us a little bit about your mindset behind that being kind of the last step.
So I learned, so just stick it with me, so it's not so theoretical. So there's things that I learned that I didn't have as covered as I thought I did. Like, things that, because it wasn't a thing till it was a thing, you know, like, what's the phrase? The brain only looks for the answers. The brain only looks for answers to the questions that you ask it. So if this is not a thought in your head, you're not thinking about these things. And so I didn't have, there was some financial things, there was some professional stuff, there was some family type stuff, there was some things that were kind of on autopilot. And so much time on autopilot, I almost forgot that they actually required something, like some kind of involvement or paying attention. So what the evolution looks like is that, okay, you have to re-engage with your life. Like, start what you've assessed where it is and where the holes are in the boat. You're adapting to the fact that you've taken on water. Okay, so now how do I plug the holes up, and how do I not get those same holes again? So what do I need to shore up? What do I need to go and learn and practice? What do I need to reinstitute? What do I need to remove? Like, there are some things, it's not about, sometimes it's addition by subtraction. It's not that I need to take on new things. Some stuff I just need to get rid of. I've been carrying around dead weight, bad ideas, false narratives, poor practices, bad relationships. Like, there's just some stuff just needs to go, because I've learned that, you know, when certain things are happening, these things are not only not beneficial, but could be problematic. So the evolution is, how can I cut some of this baggage off me? How can I streamline things? How can I shore up some stuff? What steps do I need to do to make sure we don't end up here again? How do the evolution, thinking like evolution of animals and creation, how do I make it through the next age? Like, how do I make it out the ice age? Like, there's a whole lot of creatures that made it out. How did they make it out and a whole bunch of them didn't? You know, what do I got to do to make sure I make it through this next wave so I can keep going?
Yeah. And I think, you know, the thing about when you're evolving is that you're gonna have to let some things go.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to your environment, not just the people that you're around, but the things that you're doing and exposing yourself to. And the thing about people as they evolve, and you know, this is one of the a topic or a struggle that people have, is that their friendships, their relationships, they start to actually see it for what it is, and they're in complete shock, right? And so I have to tell people, listen, they didn't change. You're just you've placed yourself in that position for them to treat you that way. You're just finally seeing it, right? Just to kind of dissolve some of the like frustration that they're having. They're not doing anything different than what they were doing before. You've just evolved and changed. So,
Yeah.
and I think, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying with that, like the relationship between a caterpillar and a snail is different than the relationship between a butterfly and a snail.
Mm-hmm.
When you're both on the same leaf, when you're both hanging out at the same level, when you're both hanging out in the same environment, that relationship seems like we may be tighter than we are because we're in the same situation. But now as I continue to grow, now I'm flying. I'm not hanging out here on this leaf with you no more.
Can't.
And it has nothing to do with you being on the leaf. It's I don't want to be on this leaf anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in a new phase. I'm trying to mess with flowers. I'm trying to see what's happening on the other side of town. I got some new clique of butterflies I'm trying to kick it with. Like I'm trying to do new things. And it has nothing. I don't dislike the snail, but the snail's chilling where he's at because that's where he wants to be. As a caterpillar, it was cool because we was on the same level like that. And not level as in better or worse, but just situationally.
Yeah.
Now as a butterfly, I don't hang with snails no more.
And that's like a really dope analogy. I never heard it that way, but we stick with that analogy. And we're trying to evolve and we're a butterfly. Imagine all the sights the butterfly is able to see once their wings come and they're spreading their wings and that's what happens with us. But so many people, they get their wings, but then they stay down there with the snail and they miss out on so much because it could be a scary feeling, but it's definitely a process that you have to be mindful that it's going to come with a whole range of emotions as you're trying to expand.
Yeah, there will be snails that will try to shame you from flying. There'll be some snails that want you. Oh, you think you're better than me? There'll be some snails that'll want you to stay exactly where you at on that leaf. There will be that fear of what is it like out there. I've never been out there before. Looks cool, but I don't know. That there could be that kind of intimidation to what's different or what's new. Sometimes it's self-imposed guilt. I like the snail, but
we had a good relationship.
We had a good run. We had amazing times on that leaf, man. We was chopping it up, man. We was, a lawnmower coming. We both laughing because he missed us. Like you could have stories with the snail, and then it was really tight. It was a real bond. But I can't so we'll talk ourselves into keep trying to come back to that leaf, and it don't work.
Yeah.
So when on the evolution part is that with that adaptation to what's new is acceptance, and so it's not 2019. Like it's not what it was. The dynamics of this relationship are over. Doesn't mean the relationship is over, but in the way it is now, the way it was, how we were in high school, how it was in college, what it was like in our 20s, what it was like living at home, what it was like, those days are over. Great memories, but that can't be the blueprint moving forward. That's done. And so the evolution, it ties into acceptance of I'm a butterfly now. Butterfly is not better than a snail. It's just different. It's different life, different goals, different process. And so for some of us on the evolution part is that's the struggle of why am I now flying and they're still walking? Why, will I fly? Will the wind take me out? Like all the questions and doubts that we may have ourselves. I'm just running this analogy in, but when we accept I'm a butterfly and there's a life that butterflies live, and that's where you're just like the cocoon and all that, you're shedding off the baggage. You're shedding off the guilt. You're shedding off all that stuff and embracing what life is like now and how to make the best life out of what this butterfly life is. You still think back to caterpillar days, but I'm going to see what this butterfly life's about.
Yeah, embracing it is huge. And when I think about these 3 steps, it's not a one-time thing, this awareness, adaptation, of evolution. I just see it kind of going, you're evolving and then something happens and then you're self-aware, right? You're always, it's this thing that just goes in a circle. Is that the way you see it as well?
Yeah, because like I said, life is evolving opportunistically. So as you're putting your focus to something else is trying to happen over here.
Yeah.
So when you've made your focus, I'm going to shore up my money because my money got real funny. Like it was doing stand up, like my money real funny from 2020. So I'm putting my focus over here. Now my relationship might start getting holes
Yeah.
because I started losing money because I was focused in love. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm focused on this and I don't see my family. Or I'm focused on it. So every time we're trying to assess something and to adapt and to evolve in it, the opportunistic practices of evolution are happening on the other wall. We're shoring up the north side, but now the east side is somebody's working on that, trying to fix. So it's a constant flux of reassessing, constantly adapting, and constantly evolving. You know, it was that Darwin's thing that like the people who went out, like evolution is not the strongest or the fastest, but those most able to adapt. Like if you can keep the juggling act going, you're gonna keep rolling. But so it's not a one-stop thing. It's a forever thing.
It is. And for people that are listening to this that may be overwhelmed by, this is the first time you're hearing something like this, it feels like a big process. Just start the process. As somebody like me, as you're talking about this and I understand it, this is literally how I live my life. And it doesn't feel like a chore because I've been so engulfed in it. But initially it felt like a chore because I had to think, okay, what do I do? But it's worth the process, right?
Yes.
Like I know it's hard when you start like learning how to ride a bike, learning how to swim, and that fear that came for people that I still can't swim. I still got the fear, that fear that comes with it. And for people that did learn how to swim, especially as an adult, I think it's a lot harder. Those fears kick up a little bit more. Now that you swim, you don't regret it. You're happy you went through the process. And so when you think about living, and I think that's what we're talking about today, because so many of us have been in survival mode for so long. When we think about living and introducing this concept to our life, it's going to be hard. I'm not here to sell you a dream. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? I wouldn't have a job. So it is hard. But you have to realize, you have to think if you want to be committed to, this process. And I think that when you do that, you'll find yourself living and not just surviving, and that process of operating in life looks different.
Yeah. It's definitely not an automatic or an easy, I kind of liken it to even the simple stuff. Say you want to get in shape.
Yeah.
Changing your diet, changing your habits, your lifestyle. Sometimes it's hanging the people you hang around with. It's all these things. There's going to be shifts all across. You got the friends that you used to, we used to hit, pizzas up, or all you can eat buffets, or that was our go-to, or that was our whatever. Taco Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, like just whatever, whatever the thing was. But if you're like, I'm on this new fitness journey, I don't have an issue hanging with you, but I can't hang out with you at the taco bar.
Right.
3 days a week.
Right.
And what happens is when we start making those shifts out of our old behaviors and adapting new behaviors, then we start getting more in alignment. We start creating relationships that are in alignment with our new focus. Yeah. So if you start working out 3-4 days a week, you may not have had a friend that went to the gym before. You go to the gym consistently 3 to 4 days a week. In a month or two, you're going to have brand new friends. Seeing the same faces, the same people, the same, like after a while, you're going to start, oh yeah, well, we do this. We go running, we go hiking, we go swimming, and then when you get out there hiking and swimming, you'll find more people who do that stuff. And you'll start finding yourself, you're finding your tribe, your new tribe, when your stuff starts to align. But a lot of that stuff all has to start with where am I at today? Like having that, I would say that real conversation with yourself or whoever you pray to, that in the mirror, just like, is this okay as is? Like the way that me and my wife talk, is that going to work? Is the way me and my husband get along, is this sustainable? Is the rate that we save money for the future, is this going to get us there? The way that the trajectory it looks like my children are on, is do I need to step in? Do I need to get some help? Like taking a real stock of what's going on and then start making some moves.
Yeah.
Because I've just been finding more and more, like, and I don't know why it wasn't really a focus to me before, but I just started seeing, like, I didn't realize how aggressive the rest of the world is trying to be here. Like, we can fall into a passive state, kind of melancholy, get kind of in our feelings about something and just kind of sit back. And the world around us is aggressively clawing to be here. Like, and if we're not competitive, like if we're not like I'm trying to show, if you're not trying to be aggressive and making sure your kids are making the right decision, someone is aggressively trying to lead them down the wrong path.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not trying to be, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to exercise, there are ads, campaigns, companies spending trillions of dollars to aggressively get you to eat badly, not work out, and not be healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Like,
it really
like the
goes
world.
back to, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, the world is aggressively working against, like, you have to be intentional because the world is. And so that's why I look.
And it really goes back to, sorry, there's a delay. That's why we keep missing each other. And it really goes back to this idea of training your mind and not allowing society to control it. Yeah. When you see, like, when you are self-aware and you see, like, for instance, the ad you just talked about, when you see it in real time, you just be like, wow, like, look at the way that this is operating. So many people are being pulled into a certain direction because they're not mindful. They're not intentional about their process. So it's easy to be controlled. It's so, like, I think the marketers, they have an easy job. Their job is easier than it's ever been before because nobody's thinking for themselves.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I've done marketing before. I was in marketing for a minute. There's actual formulas for how you're going for people, and there's target audiences for everything that you're talking about. And you know, they'll give you the rundown: this demographic, this ethnicity, this religious group, this tax bracket, this whatever. Like I said, there is an aggressive campaign across the board for to, and it's not even necessarily to get you; it's just for them. Like, if I don't eat unless I sell this fake food in the grocery store, because the fake food is my company. I decided that I wanted to go into a processed food company. I need to sell it. So I'm going to aggressively market this and aggressively target and aggressively for my salvation. I'm just not concerned about what it does for you because I'm leaving that up to you. Like, ultimately, you'll make the decision. And if we're not saying, okay, I need to be mindful about what I'm doing, I need to be proactive about where I want to be, I need to take stock and be in and get myself in position, they're all to save themselves. They're willing to sacrifice me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're willing to sacrifice my happiness, sacrifice my marriage, sacrifice my money, sacrifice my sanity. Like, they're coming for me.
Your time.
Yeah, all that's my attention. Attention is currency. So it's like so that's why
your dreams, your goals, like all of it. Like it's so many dreams. Yeah, there's so many dreams in the graveyard because, you know, we've allowed society to run things. And, you know, if we understood how powerful our mind is, and, you know, once we shift our mind and intentional, which is why I talk about this stuff so much, is because I understand the power that we have. I understand the power that I have. And I use it accordingly. And so, like, I really want to bring people with me. I'm trying to target people to help them shift the way they think, you know?
Yeah. And I love what you do. A lot of great guests when I watch the show, and a lot of great different insights and perspectives and stuff. And that's great because we need folks that are helping out. And like, a point that I like to make is I don't have a negative association to the people who are trying to live. Like, I don't think the spider hates the fly. But taking out the fly is necessary for the continuance of the spider. And so if you are the fly, you need to be mindful of the webs. And you have to fly intentionally. You just can't be all over the place, not paying attention.
Yeah.
And so that's why I look at, like, moving forward, like, is that all you got? Like, I'm gonna make a plan for the life that I want. And after the 2020, how battle tested everybody, if you made it out of 2020, you battle tested on some level. Some level. Even if you flourished, you learned that you can do more than maybe you thought you could.
Yeah.
Take on more than maybe you given yourself credit for before. You know, tapped into some things that you didn't, dreams that you had before that you sacrificed for a job, and the job was gone, so you kind of revisited it and found out, no, I really can do this. Like, I can make it. Or your relationship shored up. we was in this pandemic together, quarantining, and we got some what do they call them, coronials that'll be born this year. Like there's some folks love got strong in the quarantine. We finally get to be together. Like there's some learning that happened. So it's not all negative or positive, but just moving forward with a degree of intentionality and starting with ourselves and then moving forward with what it is we want to do.
Yes, I love it. Is that all you got? Really, really good topic and really good topic, really good tools to help us think through this. So I appreciate you for sharing that with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm always over here just talking. I always love talking.
No, but it's good. But I want to, for people, because there's always new listeners, for people that have not heard you before, there are a ton of episodes that he's done with me. I'll make sure to put them in the show notes. But one thing that he talked about at the beginning is that he is a DISC assessment coach. Can you let people know what that is? And also for people that have not heard about the DISC, there is an episode on the DISC assessment where we kind of go through my DISC assessment that you can listen to. But can you tell the new people who aren't aware of it what it is?
Yeah. So basically, number one, thank you for that episode, and for anybody who reached out after watching it, because there were people who tell me like, I saw you because I saw the show with Celeste, and so
good, that makes me so happy.
Yeah. So thank you first off for that. And then the DISC assessment, so think of it as like a test. It shows our preference to how we deal with problems, people, pace, and procedure. And so this test, it takes about 15 minutes to do. It comes with a 22-page report, and then we do a 1-hour session to kind of go over it. And we address an individual's like strengths, potential blind spots in behavior, the ideal environment, like the best space to be in, the best leaf for you if you're a caterpillar, about communication styles, the most effective, least effective ways for someone to communicate with you, even perception of how we see ourselves versus how we're seen by others. All these things come up in the assessment. Yeah.
Sorry, I was adding it to the I was looking for the episode number. So people that are listening to this, it's episode 264 with me and him, and we kind of go through it. But it's a really powerful tool. I believe in, as we're going through our journey of life, whether we're trying to heal, whether we're trying to grow, important to utilize like so many different avenues. And I think, in America, the main avenue about healing and like growing and understanding is only talked about with mental health and with psychiatry and therapy. So I believe like there's other ways, and one of the ways that this test operates allows you to have some like really clear, concrete goals. Understanding your strengths is powerful. I said to somebody the other day, you sound like you got your barriers down pat and your negatives, but what about the strengths? Like, let's talk about that. And so I don't think a lot of times we are aware. There's people probably outside of us that may say like, oh, you're really good at that, but you don't see it for yourself. To take this test and to actually see it come up on paper, and then you hear it and you're like, actually, I am good at that, right? I think that's a powerful experience for people to have.
Yeah, that's always interesting. Those moments where people are like, "Oh, wow!" And then with the test, if there's these kind of two options for some people after they get the assessment and they understand where they are, then they're just like, "Okay, I'm good. I got a good starting point. If I'm looking to build my business, if I'm just kind of almost like a physical, let me just figure out where I am with things." But if going through it, there are some challenges that have proven to be difficult. We actually set up coaching sessions also to work through those things of like time management and procrastination, communication, addressing negative self-talk, dealing with a bunch of things. We break those down into different segments and then help get the individual to a space where they're like, okay, I'm aware and I know what's going on and I'm good from this starting point moving forward. But yeah, it's surprising how many people have focused on triggers, on putting up walls, barriers, negative kind of connotation to things, as opposed to like, these are my gifts. These are my strengths. Like this is what I'm good at. This is where I'm passionate. They're just getting a real, you said before, like just survival mentality, and they're just living life on the defense.
Just like people who may enter into a healthy relationship after being in a lot of toxic ones, they tend to only see red flags, but
Yeah.
don't look at the ones that are like going the parts that are going well in a relationship.
Miss
And
all the
so
green ones.
it's like, yeah, you don't understand how conditioned you are to be in this negative space if you're not self-aware.
Yeah. They said that's the brain
Gotta
is
get
only looking for
self-aware.
answers that to the questions you ask it. And if you're
Yep.
looking for, if you're looking, he who seeks, he shall find. If you're looking for problems, you'll find them.
Yes, I actually wrote that down when you said that. The brain only looks for what is, because I wanted to make a point about that. Thanks for bringing that back around.
Oh, no problem. I'm
So
here for it.
basically, when you think about that statement about the brain only looks for what you ask it, it's
Mhm.
not that you're literally asking it a question at
No.
times. It's literally what you're putting into it, right? And so if you don't take time to process what's taking place, your brain continues to process with or without your consciousness there, but it's going to process, right? And so your lens start to only see things the way your brain is conditioned, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people have not do not understand that the reason why they continue to feel like a victim because they haven't processed when they were a victim. And so now as an adult, you're not a victim, you have choices, but you only see yourself in that unprocessed mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if you only see yourself as a victim, your brain will look to confirm all the places you were a victim. But if you never see yourself as a victor, then your brain's not looking for all the times that you won.
Yeah.
So, if you ask a dude, hey, where's the closest place to you that threads eyebrows? I don't know. There could be 15 places in a 3-mile radius for you, but you've never in your life thought of where to get your eyebrows threaded. So you've never seen one of these places.
Right.
But if you ask your wife, well, how many people? Oh, there's a place on the corner. There's a sub of this. Why? Because she's actually looked for them.
Right.
So whatever the brain's only, like I said, it's only looking for what you ask it. So if you're so locked in on every example of the losses you took, you can go all the way back to first grade. But if you never thought you were a winner, you'll miss all the times that you won.
That's crazy because you could go back to first grade, but miss out times after that because you're not self-aware. Your brain is conditioned to the times that you didn't win. It's crazy how it happens.
Yeah, we just get locked in on a thought. It's so the brain also doesn't look for questions to things that we feel like we have the answer to. So it's not probing to something that we've already made a decision on. It only starts probing. Like I always use relationships because that's one of the most universal things. Until you give her a reason to not trust you, she's not really looking at the things that you do to be untrustworthy. But the first time you introduce a shady moment, now the radar is on for anything that seems like it could be questionable. So if the brain doesn't have the question, it's not looking for it. So you can very easily miss out on, like I said, all your blessings, all your strengths, all your wins, all that stuff, because you believe you're not a winner. You believe you're not blessed. You believe you don't have strength. You've already put a period at that sentence. So the brain's not looking for questions to contradict it.
Yep.
So that's why your mindset is so huge, and being intentional when you go into the world about, no, I'm going to succeed. And your brain is looking for all the ways you can do it.
Yes.
I'm going to overcome. It's looking for all the options to find ways to get around it.
Yep.
When you say you're already defeated, it's going to show you every way that can stop you.
Yeah. And I know I keep saying this is it. This is it, because then I gotta edit this episode.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we always go long. Right?
I just want to
you gotta tap me out. You gotta give me a shoulder tap.
About the succeeding part, because it's so true that your mind will give you solutions. When I hit a roadblock, I don't see the barriers, but I automatically start to look at what are the solutions. I see the barriers, but I'm not stuck in it. It's not like, oh, I can't do. It's like, well, what can I do? And so many people don't understand how I've been able to keep moving and shifting, but it's not because everything has gone right in my life. It's because I've really conditioned my brain to commit to like my purpose and to commit to where I'm trying to go. So because of that commitment, and I've conditioned my brain that way, my brain is looking for solutions to the problems that I encounter.
Yep, opportunistically. It is aggressively looking to exploit the defense anywhere it's at for you to continue moving forward.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's I'm saying, and that's why I like the mentality to embrace about like aggressively. Yeah, I have to think of it like the alternative is the chicken. Like
Mm-hmm.
to not aggressively look for the ways to succeed, the ways to make it, the ways to persevere. The alternative is ending up the chicken
Mm-hmm.
on this evolutionary scale. So yeah.
Yeah. I want to answer Jenna's question on YouTube. How does depression and mental resistance play into this? So, with depression is looked at on a scale
Yeah.
where, you have some people like dealing with a situation that happens, like somebody passes away, something happens,
Yeah.
like you find yourself feeling depressed. And then they have people that are, there's a clinical depression where there's some kind of chemical imbalance happening, something's going on, would need a little bit more intervention.
Yeah.
Even though, regardless of where people are on a depression scale, I try to get people to use what they have and where they are.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to the things that we're able to do for ourselves, a lot of us weren't taught about sleep hygiene or about food intake or about exercise. Some of the smaller things we can do. If we look at a commercial, they say, you're depressed, are you feeling anxious, blah, blah, blah. They're running down the list of the medication, but not running down and asking you about your day to day. How are you treating yourself, right? And so, like, I don't want to give a broad a conclusion or to this answer, because I don't want to minimize depression, right? And so, as somebody who deals with depression, I'm talking from personal experience and as a therapist, I understand that even as I just talked about, I look for solutions, and I consistently work on it every single day. I don't stop. I don't. It's not. I haven't arrived anywhere. As long as I'm breathing, I'm going to be working on me, and I'm going to be working on my mindset. And so that's how I feel like that's how I win in this game, is by my intentionality. And so if people are really struggling, because there's different forms of how people are in their depressed state. Really remind yourself that about the different things that you're able to do if you're able to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think and I agree too. I don't think there's a blanket statement for if you're and then so assessing first.
Yes.
Are you depressed or are you sad?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there are level like so some people it's situational, like I said, and it too shall pass. Like it's something that will move by. But doing the checklist of the controlling your controllables. How much do you sleep? How much water do you take in? What type of diet do you have? Vitamin deficiencies, things along, like, so if you're saying, so being intentional is that it's not to make light of somebody's, situation, what they're going through, but I'm not making light of your broken leg, but we can get you, but you can put a cast on it. It's still broken. Like it's still broken while it's in the cast, but there's a difference if you're walking around with a cast or without one. Like you can do things to work around it that can make that situation a little bit better if you're intentional about the healing process. So, certain foods trigger certain emotional responses. There's chemicals specifically put in them to offset body chemistry to prompt a certain behavior. And
nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, there's the thing of, I know we're running long, so I hate to do, one like something as simple as your vitamin D intake. And so something specifically like in this country, so most, I think it's like 70, almost 80% of African Americans in the United States are vitamin D deficient. Because of the melanin in our skin, it blocks the absorption of sunlight. And now we live in a place where we're indoors most of the time. So we're under track lighting, light bulbs, artificial light, and then with the diet that is vitamin deficient. So a lot of us, because the darker complected we are, a lot of us are vitamin D deficient, which directly ties to immune system, mood, energy levels, all that sort of stuff. Things like that. So if you're feeling a certain way, so you try to do something to counterbalance the feeling you have. So maybe you start drinking more. I don't like to throw names of business, but the business where you go get the $5 coffee from. So now you've increased your caffeine and sugar intake. Sugar causes inflammation, and caffeine and sugar both cause dehydration. So now you've already got vitamin D deficient. Now you've got spiked blood sugar levels, and you've got dehydration in the body. So now you feel slow and lethargic. It's messing with your sleep pattern. Like all these things that start to cater into how you feel. So when you start whittling away at all those other things, the depression itself may become more manageable because you've eliminated a lot of the things that are exacerbating the feelings and stuff that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And also with what me and Jermaine was talking about around mindset, if you grew up and your depression was never addressed, or you was made to believe that you're not capable of doing anything, your mindset is set to that, where it's like, this is just who I am. This is who I'm always going to be. I can't do anything else.
Yeah,
right. But if you can, and if you can work on understanding, be self-aware, like this is what was said to me. I didn't have all the information during that time, but let me work on informing myself to figure out what I can do. So you got to really work on kind of shifting your mindset in that way. And I think, as far as that question in regards to like what we were just talking about around mindset and self-awareness, understanding our history, I think that plays a huge role into a lot of people who are struggling with a mental health condition. Years ago, they locked you away and they turned the key and didn't open it back up. Right. Yeah. I think now I've seen people live very sustainable lives through different kind of resources. But it's not, if you're still breathing, there's room for change. Our brains are so amazing. And our body is designed to heal itself. Yeah. But we don't have the knowledge to understand where do we begin. And so just like you can watch this or listen to this podcast, don't let this be the last information that you're listening to about whatever stuck out for you, right? There's so much free information out there, but we have to be intentional about utilizing that. That's fair?
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree.
Thank you. This was good. Can you tell people how they can reach you? For people that are listening to this on the podcast, you can go to the show notes as well to find him, but let people know how they can reach you.
Easiest way. So social media wise, every social media platform that I use, it's all at J Morris CEO. And then if you're interested in, say, like more information on the DISC assessment, or for something that you think that you might want to, even if you're not sure you want to do it, you just want to learn about it and then get informed, you can email me at T.E.A.M effort program at gmail.com, team effort program at gmail.com. And I can get you whatever information you want or get you set up if that's something that you want to do.
Thank you so much for another great episode. Jermaine will be back next month. I don't know what we'll be talking about. We always figure out what we're going to talk about right before the show. So
there's more than enough life going on to tap into.
We'll figure it out, but it's always going to help you get your mind right, which is why we named the segment "Getting Your Mind Right." Because I love your analogies and your knowledge. It's always brings so much to the podcast. So thank you, Mr. Morris.
Oh, my analogies. I should have been a rapper. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh wow, did I start freezing again? Oh no, I didn't. So thank you all for watching. This feels like it's so far up. Thank you guys for watching this episode. So if you are new to this visuals, this is actually an audio podcast. If you are following me on YouTube or listening on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe. If you are following me on Facebook, make sure you share this episode and like this episode. You can find the podcast streaming on all podcasting platforms. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to celestetherapist.com. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at Celeste Therapist. We'll be back Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk to somebody else that's doing something to empower the lives of others. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your